Hi, welcome to Conversations in Music with Michael Feinstein. This is the Gershwin Gallery in my home here in Los Angeles, and behind every door is something, because I have, over the 20-some years I've been in this house, collected a lot of things. One of the things that I never imagined would come into my life when I was much younger and playing and singing piano and voice in different restaurants and piano bars was to amass a collection of orchestrations. Now, orchestrations are very precious to me because we live in a time where I often see them destroyed and thrown away or undervalued. Even archives and institutions don't wish to keep them because they take up so much space and they're just reams and reams of paper. Well, orchestrations, it's true, aren't worth much unless they're performed. And that is why I helped to create the Great American Songbook Foundation, where we have an amazing collection of orchestral arrangements. And it is my ambition to try and get those things performed by working with students, by making the charts available to orchestras, to getting them out there, because we're talking about American musical history that is equally important to the achievements of the songwriters like Cole Porter and Hoagy Carmichael and Fats Waller and Duke Ellington, and the later writers Marvin Hamlish, Cy Coleman, Stephen Schwartz, Andrew Lloyd Webber, whoever you name, whoever your favorite writers are. They all depend on somebody to do orchestrations of their works for theater or for commercial recordings or for films or for whatever. And so orchestrations are very important. Now orchestrations are usually done on a computer. They're done virtually and exist in PDFs. And so the physical music is not as important. But when one considers all of the music that has been thrown away, it's amazing to think that so much is lost. We have so much, and yet so much is lost. And I can attest to the volume of music that builds up for any person who is in the performing arts. If they are singers who use orchestrations like me, the collection just grows. So I'm going to show you my personal music library. These are, for the most part, just my orchestrations that I use in my performances. And even though, if you've been watching these videos, you've seen me play at the piano, but I regularly work with symphonies, I work with big bands, I work with different jazz combos and different combinations of instruments, and each one of those requires a different orchestration of different instrumentation, different sizes for different combinations of instruments. And so it gets into all kinds of arcane technical stuff that I hope not to bore you with, but all of these are precious to me, and I'm in the process of digitizing them, but of course I'm trying to digitize all of this material, and all of these things will eventually end up at the Great American Songbook Foundation. And so, anyway, let's see what's behind this door. So, in here we have reams of music. The ones in these tall yellow envelopes are the scores from which a conductor will conduct the music. These are full scores. So a full score, I'm trying to find one. Oh gosh, where did that come from? Number 10 and 11. I'm trying to find a score to show to you. I'll find one that will give you a sense of, oh, here's one. Okay. This is one that has been typeset freshly from Johnny Mandel's manuscript. This is an arrangement that Johnny did in 1956 for Dick Haymes of It Might As Well Be Spring. So it's been newly typeset, which makes it much more readable. But this is something that has not been heard since it was recorded by Dick Haymes in 1956, and I'm going to be performing it hopefully later this year. So that's an example of a score. But because my library started back in the 1980s, late 1980s, before there was any such thing as computer engraving, a lot of this material is manuscript material, and because of that, it needs to be digitized. Like this is my symphonic arrangement of Swonderful, which I first performed symphonically in 1987 with the San Francisco Symphony, and then I revised the ending in August of 1984, necessitating copying a new set of parts. And so you have to have parts for every single member of the orchestra, of course, and you will often find all sorts of notations that the players will add to these scores, sometimes making a comment if they're not happy about something, or sometimes making a drawing of something, or more often just making notes that the conductor gives them about how they want the music to be played. This is played in 4. This is in 2. We go into 2 there. The first part, this flutist has a notation that the strings are playing, the voice starts at measure 14. These are all notes that the musicians make so they can follow along and not lose their place in the midst of a performance. So this room has filled up with music because there is so much. Because about 8 years ago, I started conducting orchestras as well. So I not only have my vocal music, but I also have the instrumental music that I conduct with the Pasadena Pops or the Kravis Center Pops Orchestra, or sometimes with other orchestras. And it's great fun to be able to revive and play arrangements by such Hollywood greats as David Raxon and Herbert Spencer and David Rose and Andre Previn. And often I find these arrangements either in an archive or a garage or in somebody's basement, or I'll call the relative of somebody who worked in Hollywood and ask if they still have their relative's music. So sometimes I'm lucky and the music is saved and I can revive it and play it. In the case of Andy Williams, after Andy Williams passed away, his son, Bobby, generously gave me his music library with the caveat that I helped to keep it alive and helped to get it played. And of course, I have been doing that. And that consists of 150 boxes of his arrangements, which are in Carmel, Indiana. And it's like the most amazing treasure chest of arrangements that not only chronicle Andy Williams' career so beautifully because he saved a large amount of his library, but also chronicle popular music because he was performing in the early 1950s. So there's pop arrangements from the 50s, and there's symphonic arrangements when he later did symphony shows, and there's arrangements for his phonograph records, and then there's from all of his television shows. So there's all kinds of material. And so I have incrementally been digitizing a lot of the Andy Williams music, and this, for example, is the original Johnny Mandel manuscript score of Hello Young Lovers, which Andy originally performed on his television show, and that's in Johnny Mandel's hand. And I have revived this and have been performing it, and it's really a fantastic arrangement. And these charts truly are timeless, especially Andy Williams' Christmas arrangements, which are perennials that are played by many people every year. And so I'll put that back later, I think. And then there are these books. You see, when one performs, they have to have a book with the music in place. These are the books from my Broadway show, All About Me, which you can see they did these beautiful volumes, and I'm glad to have them. Glad to be able to preserve the music. We had a 12-piece band in that show and some great arrangements by everyone from John Otto to Dick Lieb. And so that's this material here. Then if we go over here, like Love Just Around the Corner, there are more boxes of these arrangements, and I sometimes will purchase a collection of music if it isn't donated to the foundation and I want to preserve it, or somebody for whatever reason, for legal situations, sometimes has to sell something for an estate. I've been able to acquire certain things. I have a set of Gershwin arrangements done for a Decca Records 3-record set in 1960 called the Gershwin Years, and it's a whole set of symphonic charts on just about every major Gershwin song for symphony orchestra, for big band, and for vocal chorus, and these are the choir parts. These are combo arrangements for when I perform at the piano with a small group. So that's what these are. So these are all for smaller instrumentation. And the parts pretty much look like other parts, but you can see these are older ones because they are hand copied, and they have become yellowed with age. Now this is a trio arrangement for that. So depending on what instrumentation I'm going to be using, I have to pull out different charts. Now let's see if I can put this back where I found it. I think I will do that later as well. So that's to give you an idea of what is involved as a performer, that one has to take care of all of this material, and it's such a big job. It's a full-time job for someone, and I have had a full-time archivist working with me for many years to help keep all of this stuff in order, because often when an orchestra will use these charts, they will come back and we have to go through every book for every instrument and make sure that all the parts have come back to us, that they are playable, so they'll be ready to go the next time they're used. Because what has often happened in collections that we've gotten for the foundation, there are things that are missing, or sometimes the scores are missing because the conductor would keep the scores, and they were the musical director for, let's say, Andy Williams, and so some of the Andy Williams charts have the parts, but the scores stayed with the conductor, and Lord knows where those went, even though there have been situations where the scores have miraculously turned up again. This is another Andy Williams chart from which we did a photocopy, a scan, so we wouldn't send out the original charts, but this is a rather famous holiday arrangement, Happy Holiday, the Holiday Season, arranged for the Andy Williams Show by Eddie Karam, with whom I worked many years later. And all of this gibberish translates into beautiful orchestral music. So that is a glimpse of a music library, and I'll see you later.